Kalvi Group of Schools proudly presents Kalvi Talks Season 2 Grand Finale, a massive inter-school public speaking competition.
Hello everybody, it's me, your R.P.Dhayasree Veera Naachiyaar from Kalvi International Public School. Today, I'm going to tell you something. Before that, how are you all? I hope you are doing great. Yesterday, my baby brother just fell from the bed and my mother rushed towards him and started crying. My father came over there and said that, move aside, let him rise by himself. Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time when we fall. So that is the success stories of two cities which were devastated but emerged back again with a full force. So let me take you to my topic with a heavy heart. The fall and rise of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. There were 5 Japanese cities on the US initial hit list and Nagasaki was not one of them. The list included Kokura, Niigata, Hiroshima, Yokohama and Kyoto. It is said that Kyoto was ultimately spared because US Secretary of War Henry Stimson was very fond of the ancient Japanese capital, having spent his honeymoon there decades earlier. Nagasaki took its place instead. The United Kingdom gave its consent to the bombing of 4 cities, Kokura, Niigata, and Hiroshima and Nagasaki on 25th July 2015. So next, the atomic bombs of Nagasaki and Hiroshima were based on very different designs. The little boy bomb dropped on Hiroshima was made of highly enriched uranium-235, while the Fat Man Boy bomb dropped on Nagasaki was made of plutonium. The Nagasaki bomb was regarded as the more complex design. So the code names for at least one of the bombs were chosen by the creator Robert Saba, who apparently drew inspiration from John Huston's 1941 film, the film noir movie The Maltese Falcon. The most destructive World War II attack was on Japan, neither Hiroshima nor Nagasaki. Next, first of all, the US Air Force dropped pamphlets in Japan. So many people argued that these constituted a warning to the Japanese people. But in truth, these pamphlets didn't specifically tell about an impending nuclear attack on Nagasaki or Hiroshima. Instead, they only promised prompt and utter destruction and urged civilians to flee. The Hiroshima bombing attack was of such high intensity that it burned people and objects into the ground. And these became known as Hiroshima shadows. So next, some argue with the popular contention that these bombs ended World War II, but actually, based on the minutes of meetings held between the Japanese officials lead up to the surrender, suggests that these bombing attacks didn't actually end up the World War II, but the Soviet Union's unexpected entry into the war with Japan played a more decisive role. Next, the oleander is the official flower of the city of Hiroshima because it was the first flower to blossom again after the atomic attack. The Peace Memorial Park in Hiroshima, there is a peace flame. It is lit in 1964, and this peace flame will remain lit until all the nuclear weapons are destroyed in this world and this world is free from the threat of nuclear destruction. And that is happy news, isn't it? But the effects last to this day. So it takes just 10 seconds for a fireball from a nuclear explosion to reach its maximum size. But the effects still stay decades and span across generations. Leukemia is a kind of cancer. It increased noticeably among survivors. The survivors began suffering from thyroid, lung, breast cancers at a higher than the normal rate. Isn't it a sad news? Yeah, well. But there is a way to make sure that it never happens again. It is the Nuclear Ban Treaty. Before that, about the paper cranes. The paper cranes have also come to symbolize the hibakusha, survivors of the atomic attacks of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The paper cranes are not also just a symbol of peace, but it's also a call to an action. So when we talk about nuclear weapons, we must talk about the real and unacceptable effects that they could have on us human beings. I hope you learned something new about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but there are still 15,000 nuclear weapons which are threatening this world. But let us make sure that these nuclear weapons are destroyed and no city, country, town suffer the same pain and devastation. Thank you, everybody.
Kalvi Group of Schools